you did you did the storekeeper for 3 months or 2 months or so?
Yeah, yeah, right. But what happened was when I went back in October and I seriously got the job as a storekeeper, so I went to work almost immediately, and fortunately I already had bought this car, this $35 car. It was amazing, and I was able to commute to
Floyd Bennett.
Floyd Bennett Field. So, and of course my duties there was I have a detail of. See, third class storekeeper is not that great. It's a petty office rating, but you go third, second, first, and then you go chief petty officer. And I was not ever felt I was born to be an enlisted man anyway, so I didn't particularly want to get involved. But what I had to do was observe these monkeys or whatever they were, these second-class seamen who were bragging to me they were in the service for 10 or 15 years and they were still a second-class seaman.
Making $12 a year.
So, I did that and got tired of it pretty damn fast, and then my friend who was the chief yeoman, he was a yeoman first class for the frontline officers. They had yeoman firsts, just as a secretary. So.
Right. Which a yeoman first is a pretty high enlisted rank.
Oh yeah.
It's
Right.
probably like a master sergeant in the Air Force.
Probably.
Like somebody with 20 years of service?
Well, yeah, this guy was pretty young, but he was very much on the ball. And we had a three-striper who was in charge of the supply department, and I was in the supply department. And we had all these 50 caliber guns in boxes.
I bet.
And I had to, this is before Pearl Harbor. And of course after Pearl Harbor, then it was more a problem,
Well, your stock was moving a little faster after Pearl Harbor.
But they were putting together, I didn't tell you, they were putting together steel lockers for the enlisted men, for the officers, or whoever needs a steel locker.
Wow.
And they moved very slowly, and I couldn't put up with them too much. And I remember that one guy who gave me, he said, "Hell, you've only been in the service and blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Hell, you could be in the service for 100 years and you'd still be a..."
Petty officer, second class.
So, but at that point, I guess I didn't get in until the 11th of December. And all this I'm just talking about was in January or February.
Right.
And by March I had it, and then my good friend, I can't think of his name now, the first class yeoman, said, "Look, Frank, why the hell don't you get a commission? You deserve it. You've just gotten out of college and all that."
Did you have to have college to get a commission?
No, but that, I think, at that time,
Made you more competitive?
yeah, they were giving preferential treatment to guys vying for pilot jobs.
Right.
And had 4 years college.
Right.
So, and then after that, they didn't care whether you went to college or not.
Well, because life expectancy was like about 6 months for the pilots. Knowing the Air Force, the Navy was probably the same way. After the war starts, they're doing their casualties the way that you would do accounting. They're just making sure that there are enough warm bodies to fill after the war starts and they start to have people shot down and they start to have attrition. Then when you got in, the standards were high, but probably by 1942, 1943, when people started getting shot down, when you think about the number of airplanes that were out there, I mean, somebody was telling me at the air show 2 days ago that, I can't remember the exact number, but there were like some ridiculous number of B-17s built, like 4,000 or something like that.
4,000 B-17s?
And like one B-17 has a crew of like 8. So that's an awful lot of people that are involved in flying airplanes.
Yeah.
One plane, and then times, you know, it was a few thousand anyway, just of one type of plane.
Yeah.
Not to mention the other 30 different varieties of airplanes, of which each one might have had a few or several thousand of them built. So I guess the thing that's weird is the commissioned pilots were not living very long. I mean, they go through that whole program and then they get killed.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you'd spend more time in training, in pilot training, than you would the rest of your life. I mean, 6 or 8 or 10 months of training, and you might live for 3 weeks or
The
4
thing
weeks.
was that they, and I was well aware of it, that they were not, I don't know what the length of the normal training in Pensacola was.
It's a year.
But,
It's 1 year.
you know, we did 6 months.
Well, yeah,
So,
there's my
you know,
point.
That's why I guess maybe they overlooked some of my down checks.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know, I probably wouldn't have been able to get through pilot training in 6 months. I'm sure I wouldn't have been able to get through. I needed all 12
I
months.
had never been in a plane, you know, to fly,
That's just incredible.
of course, George, did you hear what Kara was doing for me today? She was in the internet trying to trace down George Burnett.
Oh, that's great.
And she found about 10 people, and we ruled them out because of the cities. Most of them were North California cities, like
Sacramento.
Sacramento, and there's a place where the train in San Francisco goes out up into Oakland, and it's the last stop on that train.
North of Oakland?
Yeah.
Like Alameda?
No, well, Alameda.
How about Reading?
No, well, it doesn't really matter what the name of it was, but if you pick the last stop on the train that goes from San Francisco across the Bay Bridge,
Right.
and goes to Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'm going to have to track him down. So what Kara was suggesting is that she can email him, I guess, and tell him in a short statement what we were wondering if that particular person was
A Navy pilot
a
between...
Navy training pilot in Los Alamitos in 1942.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to identify him.
Well, I hope that he's still alive because he was a little older than me, I think. And,
Would you consider him to be your closest friend of the war?
well, one of them, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I never followed him up. He, after we left Los Alamitos, because it was on the coast and they were worrying about the Japs coming in and bombing Los Alamitos, why, they moved it into Hutchinson, Kansas, and Norman, Oklahoma, all these internal places.
Yeah, it's a little hard for the Japanese Zeros to get into Norman, Oklahoma.
And what they did, the Los Alamitos was made more final training for people in bombers or something.
Yeah.
And that was the same way at Hutchinson, Kansas. They had these 4-engine, it's got a bombing number, and it was the Navy ship. It was the Army version had little round rudders on them. It was like a B something.
Like a B-25?
No, this was a big bomber. And the Navy's version had a straight fin. That is, the vertical fin was straight.
And what year are you talking about?
Oh, this was in 43.
A big bomber, like a B-29?
No, not a 29. Just a medium bomber, like
A 24 or a 26?
yeah, well, that's in the range where I'm talking about.
Like the Liberator?
The Liberator. That's it. What's the number?
I think it's a B-24.
24, yeah. Well...
Oh yeah, it's got a twin. The Air Force one has a twin round rudder.
Round rudders.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, oh yeah, George. So there's so many things. I want to talk to you earlier about I was telling Kara that on Sundays, when George and I used to arrange our days off, and we used to work 14 days in a row doing training, not instrument, but
Primary flight training?
primary flight training, and then we get 2 days off.
Wow.
So we get in George's car, and George he had a Ford, and we drive down to his house, and we just had a ball
Where
there.
was his house?
He was up on,
This is from Los Alamitos?
yeah, it's like
Oh, yeah.
100 miles to down to San Diego. You've been over that thing going
Yeah.
down to Mexico.
Los Alamitos is 100 miles north of San Diego? Or east of San Diego?
About, well, it's right, even with Long Beach, it's just inland.
Oh, okay. Is it anywhere near North Island?
No, North Island is in San Diego.
Okay. Because I was supposed to go there in a T-38, but we couldn't go because there were thunderstorms. And I was wondering if Los Alamitos was near North Island because I'd heard you talk about Los Alamitos, but I never
Where were
heard
you
you talk.
in,
I was in Laughlin back in 1988. We were supposed to go cross country.
I mean, I know they still have the map there. They don't even have a runway. They have to have a big...
It's still marked on the chart. It's still marked on the chart as an airbase, but I'm not sure what they've got going on there. But this was your very first stint after graduating?
Oh yeah, we went to Norfolk, Virginia, and were supposed to wait for the PBMs, and then that stupid company went on strike, Martin. And then they had to rehash us, and then we went to the bar every day to
Drown your sorrows?
drown our sorrows and celebrate for a good or a bad change.
I tell you what would really be helpful for me is if you could give a timeline of your military service. And then once you say the timeline, then maybe you can recall, some people, like I know you talked about Josh Langford and people like that, but in order to get some perspective, because it's a long period of time from the end of 41 all the way through the end of 46 or so with the reserves and everything, ending with your great trip to Argentia, Newfoundland. But, because I have a lot of great stories you told me in my mind, but I really have no idea where they fall in that timeline.
Yeah, well, I could...
just give me... The timeline would be really, really good just to try to...
I don't know if I could do it accurately off the top of my head.
It doesn't, as accurately as you could. If you get a couple things backwards, that's not a big deal, but
Well,
just to kind
do
of
you want to try to do some now, or...
Sure. I mean, just the timeline, just, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that well enough.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
Well, what was I right on? I was just trying to...
You're talking about Kara trying to find George Burnett.
Oh, yeah, I was telling her that he was such a great guy, and we argued things out. If we had controversial problems, we would argue them out. You know, like, for example, Frank, why don't you have a checking account at the bank? Don't you know you're supposed to have it? Look, George, I don't have that much money to even have any money in the bank.
You know, your money in your sock.
So we would argue it out, you know, in a nice, friendly way. And then finally, and he'd say, well, what do you think? You know, I mean, there's no question in his mind. And of course, he and his mother and his father was dead. And his brother and his mother and he were third owners of, each had a third of the Burnett Furniture Company in San Diego. And I'm sure the company's still there, and I don't know who the hell's still alive, but that's what I've got to find out.
That's incredible.
I could probably just call up at some low time, of course, time, and just the company flew a lot of the people from the company down to the wedding in Tulsa and all that stuff. But no, anyway, so okay, well, I can just give you a broad, not doing it month by month. Or
right, no, just in general order.
Yeah. Well, okay, well, I can start with my introduction of my first flight assignment in the Navy Yard in Philadelphia. And just indicate that that's where I was supposed to report. Now, I think Uncle Jim took me to the airport at LaGuardia. You know where LaGuardia?
Yeah, I was based there. I was based there last fall.
Yeah, I was. And anyway, I'll just repeat it because you may have forgotten it, but I'm sure I've told it to you before, that I got orders to go to there, and they had me going on a certain Monday or Tuesday. So I flew down on the United plane, I think, to Philadelphia.
United?
I have pictures of it in my
Scrapbook?
Scrapbook. And somebody, I think it was Uncle Jim, took me out to the cottage and put me on the plane. And then I finally got to the airport, the Navy Yard, and reported. And they said, well, you're a week too early. So no sense of sitting around here. Why don't you, we have I told you this more recently. They had this airplane that was a utility airplane for the Navy. It was an amphibian. And they had trouble with the tail wheel. And they had room in the pontoon for me to sit down there, go to New York, go to Bournemouth.
In the float of the plane?
What?
In the float? The pontoon?
Right.
Holy cow.
Well, it was a regular seat there with a safety belt, I guess.
I guess they had to get somebody that weighed the same as you to sit on the other side in the pontoon, or else the thing would be lopsided.
Well, you've seen, this is it's a utility plane which would make a JRS or something like that,
But like a Grumman Mallard type of thing.
yeah, but this wasn't a Grumman, I don't think. it was an interesting plane.
Like, was it anything like a Chalk's plane?
No, they were all pretty modern seaplanes.
So this, but I mean size-wise and weight-wise.
This is just a utility plane, and I don't know exactly what they used it for.
Well, I didn't mean to bog you down in the detail for that, but because I don't want to put you on a tangent. But anyway, so you went down to Philadelphia on United. Then they said, we don't need you for a week, so why don't you go back home and hang out for a week? So then you flew on this utility plane, went back to LaGuardia.
Yeah, it was interesting because we flew very low over the whole eastern United States. From Philadelphia, it's not that far, it's like 100 miles.
No, but it's very picturesque, very neat.
So we came in and landed at Grumman Factory. I guess it was at Grumman Factory. And so I wasn't going to ride it back. I tried to bum a ride any way I could to Floral Park. And of course it was we overshot Floral Park because there's no place to land in Floral Park, and they were going to the factory.
Right, and the factory is out on Long Island.
It's out near Farmingdale.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Farmingdale.
So it's too far east. You'd have to backtrack to the west to get back to Floral Park.
Well, Floral Park's still pretty much in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's more west, that is west from Farmingdale.
Okay.
And so I didn't stay around there too long. I don't think I looked at airplanes on the. This was in April, May 42.
Right.
And so I hitchhiked. I really have never done much hitchhiking in my days.
Well, that's something to be proud of.
And I got into Floral Park, and I got the guy to drive me right to the house.
Wow.
I mean, I might have been on a couple of, maybe one guy took me, I don't know. So, and then I hung out in Floral Park. And,
your dad was still in Washington?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he was down there during the war.
Okay.
He eventually, my dad was never a politician. And he sort of turned mad, and they offered him a job to come back when he was with the Interior Department. And that was, it might have been a slight pay cut, but it would have reinstated his seniority with Turner. And I know I've talked to Uncle Jim about my father a lot, and he, of course, they never worked at Turner at the same time.
Right.
But he says, Dad is not very politically inclined, and he just,
Not real tactful?
Yeah, right.
So he told everybody what he thought of him, pretty much.
Yeah. So he, then when he was through with the Interior Department, they didn't want him. So then he had to go back on that doing bids, and if they got the job, they won the job, then he would get paid, otherwise he didn't get paid.
So I don't want to get you sidetracked. So finally, after your week at home expired, then you had to go back to the Philadelphia Navy Yard?
Yeah, I went back to the Philadelphia Navy Yard.
Hopefully now in United again.
I might have been confused on that. The first time I went, I might have gone on the the Pennsylvania Railroad. Yeah, I wouldn't stop in Philadelphia. I I mean, I could have. I don't recall going on a plane both
Both times, so one was probably by train.
Yeah.
So then you get there, and tell me about what you did in Philadelphia, New York.
Well, the greatest thing about starting out there on sort of the right foot is that there was a major in the Marine Corps who was in charge of the school. And I figured this guy's going to be a no-nonsense guy. And I wanted to learn how to fly. I didn't want to be fooling around.
You didn't want to get killed.
So then, and he had the experimental C4. What is it, a C4 or J4?
J3.
J3?
Piper Cub?
Yeah.
J3. Same airplane that I flew doing the crop dusting back in 1983 or 4.
So anyway, here's the way it worked. What's the configuration of seats?
It's a 2-seat.
Side by side?
No, tandem, front back.
Oh.
And if you fly it solo, you have to fly it from the back seat or it'll tip over under the propeller. 65 horsepower.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this was a new experiment that they had for us, and I didn't question it, and I was just happy to get in any kind of a plane. So this what do I call him?
A major in the
Marine
Marine Corps.
in the Marine Corps was running the school, and he was happy to have me.
Because you were probably no nonsense also.
So, and of course, all of our solo flying was done out of Camden, New Jersey, which is across the river to the west.
The Delaware?
No, it's in the...
I mean the Delaware River?
Well, yeah, I guess so. Camden is in New Jersey.
Right.
Philadelphia is...
in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Where Kara's from. I would say the Delaware River. George Washington crossed.
Yeah, right. So, anyway, that went on for a little while, but we never soloed
You said you soloed it at Camden.
No, I said we did our solo work in flying other airplanes.
Oh, okay. So you did solo other airplanes during that period of time?
Oh, yeah.
But you never soloed the Piper Cub?
No, they never would let you solo.
Well, probably because you'd have to solo it from the back seat, and you can't see where you're going from the back seat.
I mean, the only advantage it gave was it gave the new cadet who maybe had never flown a plane an opportunity to see how it goes.
It's a great airplane. It's a fabulous airplane, stick and rudder.
You could learn, you could make turns in it.
Well, the thing is, it was very hard to stall. You know what the stall speed was? It's like 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, what other planes did you solo over Camden?
Well, then I got into the regular class of
cadets
flying on a regular basis, and I guess we had maybe two classes there. And then every month or so, I think we stayed there like maybe 2 or 3 months.
Total.
And they lost my
logbook
for that portion of my original training. And when I went to,
what did you solo though? A Stearman?
No, we had N3Ns, which were made in the Philadelphia Naval Aircraft Factory. They made a plane called an N3N. It was pretty much like a Stearman, except it was a more durable plane. And if you were doing aerobatics, you could count on it never ripping off into a spin. Like when you're going for a circle, you have to land in the circle.
Slip to the circle?
Well, yeah, that was one of the exercises, slipping to the circle. But you were supposed to be able to just keep your power on up to a certain point and then just glide it into the circle.
Right.
And if you stuck with that extra altitude, all you did on the N3, N3 was to pull the nose up to about 55 instead of 65. And
about like a falling leaf.
well, not a falling leaf, it was under control, but it would land right in the middle of the circle.
Wow.
And if you had an N3N1, which was, I guess, the original of that series, it was pretty much like a rock, and you might jar your teeth loose.
Oh, wow, I'm glad I didn't fly that.
Then the other maneuver was the S turns to the circle, which makes a lot of sense, and that's what you do. You 700 feet or 800 feet, and the circle's here, and your plane's here, and you cut the throttle, and you immediately start going into a base
turn,
and it's really good training because you have to maneuver your plane all the way. You know, you're always making adjustments because you can't overshoot the landing line.
Right.
You can't go over and then S-turn back.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the maneuvers I think that we did too, but that was a pretty advanced maneuver.
Right.
If you went past the line and then you had to S-turn back to land straight in. But yeah, we did all sorts of stuff. And then I don't know, I would want to put this in. Is this thing being recorded?
You'll find out tomorrow.
It'll be in the newspaper. The only thing I would say is that when I was at they worked us pretty hard, and we had to take on Sundays, they put us in a bus and drove us over to Camden, and we had to do all of our solo work over there. And if you can think of anything more dangerous than about 25 or 30 cadets flying solo over one airport.
Holy cow, I bet the resale value is plummeting real estate.
But that's what they did. And but along those lines of going to Camden, one night I was out fairly late with the boys, and I was pretty hungover, and I was trying to figure out how am I going to get out of flying, because, you know, I had a sort of a big head, and driving in that bus over to Camden, I just had a bigger headache when I got there. And I figured I'd chance it and not get into a hassle with them initially. But I had 2 flights. That was 3 hours of flying.
Oh my gosh.
And I honestly learned my lesson about drinking and flying that day. I mean, I didn't put myself in harm's way, but
you were miserable.
It's stupid to do, because if you don't like headaches, and what happened was I got in the plane solo. I went out, and they used to have these, you probably see them, or maybe you fly so high you can hardly see them. There's a lot of New Jersey roads that have traffic circles, and that was because they didn't have the money to make a nice clover leaf, you know.
Right.
So they, you know, you go up to well, it's just like the
Cocoa plum.
Cocoa plum circle, you know, you go in and then you go around, and you can keep going around, you can get off at any tangent.
Right, like Chevy Chase.
So I just started going from one traffic circle back to the other traffic circle about 3,000 or 4,000 feet, and
Oh, good
Life
night.
was
45
going
minutes.
backwards. So what happened was I finally knew it was going to be ridiculous for me to be playing games with my life, and when I went back, I just made a strong pitch that I had a very bad headache. And of course, I'm sure the guy I was talking to, the instructor or what, I mean, he wasn't my instructor, but whoever was babysitting all of these solo hot shots.
Probably know exactly what you...
He was saying, yeah, how many did you have last night? So I just said that I just have a miserable headache, and I just don't feel that I can afford to fly.
They cut you some slack? What? They cut you some slack?
What? Did
they cut you some slack, or did they make you...
No, they didn't impress me. I was miserable enough. But that made a big impression on me, and I never would ever get involved with the mixing with the flying. It's ridiculous.
Well, I haven't done it yet, and I'm not planning on doing it.
The thing is that every noise on the plane is multiplied by 10.
It's an open cockpit airplane, so everything's
Yeah.
already multiplied by 10.
Then multiplied by 10 again.
Okay, you have 45 minutes left on this tape, and so I don't want to spend all of it.
Let me make a little more speed then. So after I was given a credit to move on to Pensacola, and in August of '42, we got our orders to go to Pensacola and we had to go through primary training again down there, and they lost my logbook. So I don't know how many, I had like maybe 30 or 40 hours, and these are my original...
But did they lose it then, or did they lose it many years after?
No, I should have tried to get it and take it with me.
Yeah.
I didn't have it when I got to Pensacola. So that when we went on a train from Philadelphia to Pensacola, you know the layout of the cities from the air, and it's a long ways though.
I would guess if you went directly, you probably went through like Charleston, West Virginia or something, or...
Well, I think we probably went through probably the Blue Ridge Mountains, or around lowlands between the
right, a little bit out of the valley.
Down to Nashville and Knoxville and all those. And then
pretty.
finally down to